Hey everybody, welcome to, I don't know what episode this is of the Pod Life. We have a very special guest again today, Christopher Lawrence, who was with us previously on one of our Sugar Chronicles, the Gummy Horrors issue.
It was a popular issue.
It was.
It's still a popular issue.
It is.
In life.
It is. My life. We're not talking about sugar today, though.
That's right.
So I wanted to give you, Christopher, an opportunity to tell our listeners what you do as a life coach, and then we will get into my question.
Sure. I have 3 key areas of focus as a life coach. One is on helping people discover the right job fit. So whether it's a dream job or just a better job than they have now, helping them discover that or navigate through it. So sometimes they're in that job, but it's not going the way they want. That's the first thing I do. Through that process, we're often looking at the entire rest of their life. So sometimes people come for a job, sometimes they come for something else, but we end up touching on almost everything. The second thing is that we do lots of corporate stuff as well. At this point. So it's about getting into organizations and helping corporations sort of bring life coaching into the business, helping people manage difficult change and master difficult conversations and all of these fun things. So same stuff that we do in the life coaching piece, but on a formalized group level.
Okay, excellent. Well, today I wanted to talk to you about finding your passion, chasing your dreams, that kind of fun stuff, motivating stuff. So I guess the first question is, can you tell me your story of how you came to be a life coach?
Oh my gosh, yeah. How far back do you want me to go?
You're not that old, so it won't take long.
You'd be surprised. I realized what birthday I was coming up to, and I was like, uh-oh. No, yeah, exactly, yeah. So, I'll go back to college maybe, and when I was in college, I took administration. I was in the admin field, only guy in the class of 110 women.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's what some people thought. I was disappointed. Make your own conclusion. So I did quite well in that program, and I entered the corporate world, and I did very well, but I was, even though I was doing well, I was consistently dissatisfied with the status quo. So I worked in corporate. I couldn't understand why things were the way they were. I was continually dissatisfied. I went through a massive process, almost in a literal sense, of gaining weight and becoming dissatisfied, and maybe drinking a little too much and eating too much, and to sort of manage stress and everything else. And so I was working on a project that had, I think the team was 46 people as core employees, and then we had a number of subcontractors, like twice as many subcontractors working for us. And by the end of that project, the project was delayed by a year or two. Like, it was insane. 1/3 of the entire project team had been on long-term or short-term rather, medical or disability during that time, mostly due to things like stress, anxiety, depression, adjustment disorder, and all these things. So I was one of those few. The few, I mean, 1/3 is not a few, but so during that time, the time that I was off, I did a lot of self-work and this kind of thing, and I realized that in any big change, there's always a group of people who get left behind. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to work with those people who got left behind. So I was in the change management field, right, which is a field that helps organizations go through change. Most organizations tend to focus on the technical side of change, but not enough on the people side of change. Mm-hmm. My approach is quite a bit different. It's like, we need to focus on the people side of change, getting buy-in, getting people motivated for the change, helping them perform better, and just sort of enhancing their work structure. But that's not typically what corporate change focuses on. It intends to, but it doesn't do it well, in my opinion. Now, I haven't worked with every organization in the world, but there are some common themes that seem to string across many. So what I wanted to do was the people side of change, and I realized that in my organization that wasn't going to happen in the way that I would like it to. So I started this company, Change My Life Coaching.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is really awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so my first question for you would be, what's your definition of passion, and is this different from someone's purpose?
Yes, absolutely. What a great question to start with. This is a subject that I'm particularly passionate about. And in the same sentence, I'll say screw passion. So here's it. I don't say screw passion in a literal sense here, but well, and passion is important. It's really important. So I'm going to give you the definition through a couple of examples.
Okay.
I sort of see purpose as purpose and passion as a cake, and purpose is the cake itself. The cake is the reason why we get up in the morning.
Okay.
Right? We want to eat it. It tastes good. It's the reason why we get up. But sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes we just don't feel like getting up. The cake is the thing that makes us get up anyway, right? So even if I don't feel like getting up, I'm going to get up anyway.
Right.
I want you to look at passion like the icing on the cake. And I think in our world, we look at, so passion are those things that really drive you, right? The problem with how we interpret passion in our world is that everybody wants to do something they're passionate about. I can tell you as a career and life coach, and as somebody who spent the better part of 10 decades pursuing passion can be really misleading. So think of it like icing without the cake. Try putting it on the cake stand. It runs all over the place in all sorts of different directions.
Yeah.
That's a lot like passion, isn't it?
Yeah.
And sometimes we've had enough, so then we just go look for different icing. We look for a different passion. And so the problem with that is that there's no grit, there's no stick-to-itiveness, there's no, seeing things through to the end. And so that's kind of the first example. The second example is we all have things in our lives that we're passionate about that maybe should never be part of our job. Like, I'm really passionate about politics and religion, and excuse the phrasing, but God help us all if I get involved in religion.
That's another podcast.
That's a totally separate podcast, right? And I'm not, I have my own spiritual beliefs. I'm not making commentary on anything. I'm just saying, not a good career choice for someone like me to get involved with religion or politics. At least not in the traditional sense. There's too many naked pictures of me floating.
Search for that.
Yeah, or don't search for it. I don't know if you'll find it. Long time ago. Remember, I was a drug addict at one point in my life, and coming up to 18 years sober, need to say that part too. Oh gosh, this has gotten awkward. Stop talking.
These are really nice socks you're wearing today.
Thank you. Yes, they don't match.
Oh, that's too funny. Okay, so how does someone know what their passion is, or maybe what their purpose is?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I do think that some people figured this out really early in life. And everybody else is envious.
It's true.
Yeah, and I find that some of the people who figure it out earlier in life, they go down that path, and I can tell you, because of what I do and having hundreds of people in my office, that they don't wake up every day going, this is it. Oh, wow, this is awesome. I'll give you an example of one client I had. He knew from the time he was 6 years old that he was going to be a cop. and he became a cop.
Wow.
And he's still a cop,
Wow.
over a decade later.
Yeah.
But I know for a fact that he does not wake up every single day, because he's told me so, and say, oh, this is amazing. It's like I have, it's like every day is an amazing day. I'm happy and whatever. And so I've kind of lost sight of your question here, but I can tell you that some of us figure out what it is at a young age, and some of us don't. So your question was, how do I figure it out?
Yeah.
Passion or purpose.
Yeah. How does someone know?
So for the rest of us, it's a little bit of an interesting process. Purpose is the reason why you want to get up in the morning, and sometimes discovering this is, whether or not you feel like it, it's still the reason why you want to, right? So discovering this, it is sometimes, for the rest of us, a process of sort of looking at the culmination of the things that we have already accomplished in our life. Not even just the great things or the bad things, but the average things, keeping in mind the great things and the bad things that we've, accomplished, and putting those together. So from an actual tactic perspective, sometimes we go through visualizations or whatever it is, but it's maybe about taking a flavor from your passion, and we'll talk about discovering passion in a second here. It's taking a flavor from your passion and saying, this is what I want to spend more time doing. So, and maybe it's even a flavor of your personality. So if you were to say, like one of the flavors of my personality is change. Everybody that knows me knows that, right? It's all about change, right? It's like, oh, you're comfortable. Okay, great, let's change things. So if I am the changer of things, why am I the changer of things? Like, what is so important from my passion that I must do? I've always been passionate about career justice, career satisfaction, knowing how to manage self in career, which came much too late in my career, and knowing how to manage your manager in career.
Yeah.
And so if I'm the changer who's focused on career, because that's a passion for me, that's kind of what I do, and maybe even a little bit of why I do it. But why do I really do it?
Right.
And it's because we spend the best part of our day at work, and the best part of our lives, when we have the most decision-making ability in our life, we spend working. So it better be something that we find fulfilling. Now, I didn't say happiness.
No, you did not.
I didn't say happiness. I think the pursuit of happiness is interesting. People who really know me don't think that I'm a particularly happy person, which doesn't mean that I'm negative either. Tell me why you're laughing.
I laugh at that because I don't see that in you.
Yeah,
like,
most
you know, and like having known you here, and you still live in the same building, and then going through the program with you, I don't see that.
Yeah, I come across as happy.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. And it's not a facade. That's just my personality.
Yeah.
Which is different. And it doesn't mean I don't experience happiness. It also doesn't mean, when I say, people that know me wouldn't say that at my core I'm a happy person, that doesn't mean that I'm a depressed person. It's not the opposite. But at my core, I'm a fulfilled person.
Right.
And fulfillment, happiness is a part of fulfillment, but so is sadness, so is challenge, so is overcoming obstacles. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I think it's about understanding that happiness is part of the pursuit of fulfillment. And this is where the difference between purpose and passion come into place, because passion is what makes us happy, doesn't it? But purpose is the reason I get up. And I can tell you, I love what I do for a living, but I don't wake up happy every day, and sometimes I don't even want to be here. But it's so fulfilling, and I cannot let my clients down, so I show up.
Yeah.
Right? And you know, I'm not one of these people where it's like, you have to check it at the door, but it's about honoring that for yourself and using that experience to have the most fulfilling session for the client, right? They might not even know what's happening in the background,
Interesting.
but it's about using what you have to produce the best results. So if we go back to purpose discovery, it's like what's it who am I? Well, I'm the changer of things. Like, I'm always changing something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what's important to me? Well, career, because of that reason. And why is that important? Because we spend the best time. So maybe my purpose is to be the changer so that people can experience fulfilling careers.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's that my purpose is to help people discover the right job so that they can have a more fulfilling career or find more fulfillment in their life through their career,
Right.
which is really what it's about.
Yeah.
If you want to know the truth, it is about helping people find more fulfillment in life through their career. So how do you discover it? I don't know if it's a simple answer, but the starting place would be, look at who you are, the culmination of your behaviors and values, the averageness of you. For me, the averageness is change, right? For some people, it's comfort. For some people, it's dissatisfaction. I don't care if it's a negative or positive word. Trust me, we're going to turn it into something that works for you. That would be the first step. The second step would be to sort of look at what's important to you. This is where passion might come in. Right, this is where passion might come in. It might not, but what is important to you? Where do you want to make a difference in your life or the lives of others? I can tell you, when people put the lives of others, some of their purpose needs to be about extending outside of themselves to help others. Right? We have to feel like we're contributing to something outside of ourselves. Right? Tony Robbins says that all the time. It is something I prescribe to, and I see it consistently with my clients. When we get down to the roots, it's always about contributing to something outside of themselves.
Interesting.
That's the second part, and then the third part is, why do you do it? Why is it important to you? So if you take those three components and you take what I said before, and I'm using myself as an example because it's an easy example, but it's like, I'm the changer. That's the culmination of my averageness. It's who I am, right?
Yeah.
And I put that in with the second step of what's important to me. Having job satisfaction is freaking important to me, man. And it's important to me that other people do too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So why do I do that? It's because people should have more fulfillment in their lives, also because of their career. Not just because of their career, but also because of their career.
Right.
That's the purpose question. Long answer, I know. Hopefully people are taking notes. There's a rewind button, right? There's a whole generation of kids out there that don't even know what a rewind button is.
That's sad.
I know, yeah.
Oh, God.
So how do you discover your passion?
Yeah.
These are the things that light your fire. And passion can be fleeting. So it's like, you might wake up one day and be like, wow, it's like, I really want to learn more about business, or I want to learn more about podcasting, or I want to learn more about, architecture, or whatever it is. And that's a passion. Those things are important, and they can help flavor the cake, right? They can help flavor the purpose. But passion isn't always the place to start, right? Sometimes it is, but then we still have to get to sort of what's underneath it, right? Because passions can change every day. For some people, it's like, I'm really passionate about this, and then like 3 months later, I'm really passionate about this. And those people stay up at night worrying that I never finish anything. And then you have the other folks who have purpose, but they have no passion, and they stay up at night worrying about the fact that they're not passionate about anything. And this is where it's like, maybe passion isn't where it's at. Maybe it's just a flavor.
Interesting.
That's my perspective.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I think you've already answered this, but I'll ask it again anyways. So, is your, we'll say, purpose something that is already instinctively known, or is there some form of personal work that goes into it? I think you've already answered that.
Yeah.
Because you said, some people just know.
Yeah. And I don't think they're born with it, actually, if you want to know the truth. Yeah. I don't think they're born with it. I think it also kind of depends on your spiritual beliefs. Like, I think, I don't think people are born with it, but I do think people maybe spiritually are guided if they're inclined that, if you're inclined to believe that.
Right.
I think that we're guided. But I think it's still a learned behavior. Like the cop. He can go back and tell you about the time he was 6 years old. The cop put him on the counter and put a hat on his head.
And that was sort of.
And then he understood what being a cop meant about saving people.
Yeah.
And this kind of thing. And so I think it's, and I think even when you have your purpose, you can lose sight of it along the way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Definitely.
Like, there's a reason why the cop was seeing me.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean he's changing jobs necessarily, but he might be changing how he shows up to that job. Maybe he needs a new purpose for being in the same career. Sometimes he needs a new purpose with a new career. Sometimes it's the same purpose with a different career.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy.
Mm-hmm.
Where should someone start if they decide they want to find their, I'm using the word passion throughout this.
Sure,
but
yeah.
Switch it around if you
Yeah,
like.
sure. And why don't we say passion and purpose? Because both are important.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Slightly different things, but both are important. So where should somebody start? I think that you start introspectively. I think too often we rely on like external assessments, either formally provided by assessors, and we can do that here. But to be honest, I don't use it for career and purpose discovery.
Right.
I use it to help me understand how to work better with my clients, right? Because I don't believe in that model. I think it's a broken model. It doesn't work anymore. I don't think it ever actually did. I think it was a step in the right direction.
Right.
Right? But I think you start introspectively and you start to become questioning.
Okay.
About yourself, and you look at yourself and you say, what are the great things I have achieved? What are the things that I completely bombed at? And then go in the middle and say, what is it that I do consistently every day? Good, bad, indifferent, doesn't matter.
I get up.
Right. And maybe you start there, right?
Yeah.
And then you look at the things that light your fire or the things that interest you. I remember when we had the conversation about you wanting to start a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why that was, right? And so it's about digging into that piece of it, right? And maybe that's your first step. It is a pen to paper activity. I know some people think that they can type this out or think about it, but it does not have the same effect as putting pen to paper.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to give it an outlet from your head, and when you're typing, it is a different part of your brain than writing it out. Because as you're writing, you're processing. As you're typing, you're dictating. Right? So, and there's a ton of research out there that would support that. So
that's interesting. Okay, so what would you say to a client who comes to you describing themselves as being stuck in a rut based on their lack of fulfilling their passion or purpose?
Yeah, stuck in a rut is really interesting because if it's based on fulfilling their passion or purpose, I think the question is, do they have clarity in their passion or purpose first? If clarity isn't there, then we have to do that first. If clarity is there, if they know what the passion and purpose is and they're absolutely clear on what that looks like, because there's no point in taking steps if you're not clear.
Right.
Right? If you're not clear, then why are we taking steps? So sometimes the steps that we take are meant to get clarity, right? Sometimes we actually have to go in, dive in head first, see if we like it, So what I would say is get clear first on what it is that you absolutely want to do. And then once you have that clarity, if you're still stuck and you can't move forward because of circumstance or whatever, that is, where it is about actually coming up with tactics for your obstacles. I'm trying to stay away from saying, there's lots of opportunities here to engage a coach because that's self-serving. But I think it should be said.
You're allowed to plug that.
Right. Well, I think it should be said because there's lots of amazing coaches out there. Right? Be picky. Make sure that your coach is results focused. And if you're not getting results, don't lock yourself into anything that you're afraid you're not going to get results from, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what you're there for, is to get results. But so you can use a coach in these cases. But if you're doing this process on your own, literally write down everything, all the obstacles, every single thing that's getting in your way from achieving that passion and purpose, and staying stuck in the rut. So I have clarity, but now I still can't achieve it. What's getting in the way? My own mindset, money, my family. What if food? Like, I don't know. It could be anything for anybody, right? So what is it that's getting in the way? And then actually, and this is where we fall apart because we're incredibly good at planning, but we don't plan to overcome the obstacles.
Yeah.
So we have to plan what the obstacles are and come up with tactics for each of them. And some of them, we're going to want to say, I have no clue. And when you want to write, I have no clue how to overcome this obstacle, or have no idea, or I don't know, when you want to write that, instead of writing that, write, seek an expert who has overcome this obstacle that I can either pay for or have pro bono mentorship or whatever it is, or seek the knowledge on the internet. Like maybe the first step to overcoming that obstacle is to research how to overcome the obstacle.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So maybe it's my habits, my thinking. It doesn't matter. The point is to get something down, and then you start down that path. And when you go, understand that disappointment will come. That's part of the journey of fulfillment. And this is why Olympic athletes, by the way, can do what they do, or the great CEOs of the world, or the millionaires who weren't born into it and didn't, but actually worked for it. This is about using disappointment to drive you forward. And yeah, it sucks. But it's about saying, yeah, this is hard. It's really hard. I want to give up. And that's a good reason to keep going.
Yeah.
It's a good reason to get up in the morning again and say, yeah, I'm totally disappointed, but I'm not going to let these SOBs beat me. And sometimes these, in quotations, SOBs, are the gremlins in your head telling you a bunch of crap like you can't do it. Right? And, we hear this thing, I can't do it, because that's one of the big obstacles, isn't it? It's like, I can't do it. Yeah, just add the word yet. You can't do it yet. Right?
Yeah.
You can't do it yet. I'd love to take credit for that. I can't. That came from a obstacle course training facility that I go to here in Calgary. Brilliant facility.
Really?
Yeah, it's amazing. Little wins all over the place. It's called CoreFit, just in case anybody wants to know. COR.FIT. CoreFit, and it stands for Canadian Obstacle Racing. That's the CoreFit.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's brilliant. Like you can have a win every 30 seconds in that place, so it keeps you coming back.
Yikes.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yet.
Yet.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, now you know what's going to happen, right? I'm going to make you come with me. You shouldn't have said that.
Okay, so what part does self-motivation play, and how do you suggest someone motivates himself or herself?
Man, self-motivation.
Yeah.
This is, it's a broad question.
Yeah.
So, I think let's just agree that motivation is important,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And you can replace that with words like internal drive or stick-to-itiveness or grit or whatever it is. But let's just agree that it's important.
Okay.
I think this is my own personal philosophy, which you don't have to agree with. And there may be even some research out there that would counteract this. Actually, I don't even know that, because the research I'm seeing would be in line with this. So here's what the research says. The research says that our ability to self-motivate and stick-to-itiveness, if it is not a well-developed muscle, community is required. Meaning, and I'm not necessarily saying support groups, because that has its own connotation to it, but sometimes community is two people.
Okay.
One who has achieved the thing that you want to achieve.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Because what happens, and you'll see it a ton of times in the new year. New Year's resolution, number one New Year's resolution is weight loss, right?
Yeah.
So everybody's at the gym.
Yeah.
And they get an accountability buddy, but they choose somebody else who already doesn't have a good habit of going to the gym. Right. And so it's like, so what happens? I mean, the writing's on the wall, right? It's like, it's like, I'm just kind of not feeling it. And your buddy isn't either. But instead of your buddy saying, neither am I, but we're going because that's what we committed to. Your buddy says, yeah, you know what, me either, it's okay.
Let's go for candy.
Let's go for candy. Right, like the exact opposite thing. So, I think the ability to self-motivate and have self-accountability is important. But I think when you're starting something off, what I would say is one of the ways is to have an accountability buddy, accountability partner, or an accountability coach. And this is not a family member. It's not your best friend. It's somebody who's a little bit arm's length from you, who you would feel a little uncomfortable if you had to tell them that you didn't follow through.
Interesting.
I know that there are so many leaders on earth who will not delve into this because of the perceived HR issues. But I can tell you that having a manager or a leader as an accountability partner, and you have to clearly establish the rules of accountability, meaning the person who needs to be held accountable gets to set those rules, not the partner who's trying to hold them accountable. So you decide what accountability should actually look like, and how they are to approach you, what they need to ask you, the kinds of things they need to say, right? You agree to those things. Using a boss as an accountability partner can be very effective. I'm not saying it's the best option, but it's very effective. I can tell you here, when we work with our staff, we do look at personal goals. They define their own accountability, but they think that we're holding accountability because the perception of the position that I hold as the owner of this company.
Yeah.
So they're scared to let me down.
Interesting.
Now, because of my approach with them, it's soft and gentle, right? They do feel a way about letting me down, but they never do. And so our staff has lost weight, quit smoking, built coaching practices, even found new jobs because they knew that they were here for a period of time.
Yeah.
And we were okay with it. That was part of it. That's part of being vulnerable, right? Outside of accountability partners, self-motivating, it's about understanding your reasons why. And so, why am I doing this? And if my why isn't a deep and personal connection, I need to dig into the pain of not doing this thing that I want to do. And dig so deep that the thought of not doing it is absolutely not optional. Right? So self-motivation can come in a number of different forms. And to be honest, you need to use the tactic that works. Right?
Right.
Some people, we hit them in their pocketbook.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you know what? I'm going to need to feel this. Here's, 1,000 or 5,000 or 500 or 50, something that feels significant dollars. It's going in this place. We have a promissory note in place. This is, you're working with somebody that you know, like, and trust. And if you don't follow through on the goal, that gets donated.
Wow.
To something else.
Yeah.
Like, I think the point is to use things that work, and whatever tactic is going to work should be the one that you do, as long as it doesn't involve self-harm.
Right.
And self-harm, comes in lots of forms.
Right.
So as long as it doesn't involve self-harm. I didn't say pain though, did I? Sometimes it is about having pain, right?
Yeah.
Pain is very motivating.
True.
It is.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. It makes you wonder, like, we've just gone through a whole bunch of layoffs in Calgary over the last 3 years. They're still happening right now, right? And everybody gets severance packages. I can tell you the people that get jobs the fastest are the ones who didn't get severance packages or got the smallest severance package. The people who had, like, I've run out of severance, I've run out of BI, what do I do? Those are the ones who had massive severance packages. I'm stereotyping here a bit, it's not true in all cases.
Well,
but
probably a big chunk of that is true.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Okay. Suggestions to stay and keep motivated.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that question because I felt like I didn't say something in the last one. So this is perfect. I think it's all about having understanding that motivation is an emotion.
Okay.
People forget that, or they don't know it. Motivation is an emotion, right? Based off of a series of chemical responses.
Okay.
So why does that matter? Here's why it matters. If I am in a low emotional state,
Mm-hmm.
how motivated am I?
0.
Right. And so a low motivational state could be things like depression or lethargy or even relaxation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So low emotional state isn't always a bad thing, right? So don't look at it as negative context. But when we're relaxed, we're not really motivated, are we?
Nope.
Right. So low emotional state equals low motivation. High emotional state equals high motivation.
Okay.
So the obvious examples are, I'm feeling really pumped up, it's a brand new year, I can do, I can do these workouts, right? We listen to our favorite music. Yours is
Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson, right? So we listen to, our favorite music. We feel motivated, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
High motivational state.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're in that high motivational state, we're more likely to accomplish those things. This is also true when we're anxious or angry.
Oh yeah.
Because we're really motivated to either get out of the situation, to fight somebody cuts you off in traffic and you don't have good coping techniques. We're really motivated to get ahead of them, to tailgate them, to give them the finger, to just start yelling, swearing, bitching under our breath, whatever it is, right? So to sustain motivation, we have to find the things that keep you in a high emotional state that are productive. Meaning, lots of times anxiety is anything but productive, right? So if we can do that for periods of time, then we have to get the habits locked in, because that's what motivation is for. It's to lock in habits.
Right.
So it's using the high emotional state to apply the same behavior over and over and over again when we're in that high emotional state. When we do that, the more often we do it, the less high motivated we need to be, because now we're starting to form habits. So this is why we slip in and out of habits a bit as well, right?
Yeah.
So, because we can't stay motivated all the time, can we?
Right.
How often can you stay, even when you have like the best day of your life, like even if it's like the best week and you're like, oh my god, like look at this and this and this and this. I mean, look at people who go crazy on vacations, like I went on 75 roller coasters in 24 hours and I was like, oh my god. But after that, they're what? They're completely beat.
Yeah.
They need some downtime, right? To relax in their own way, whatever that means, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to stay in that high motivational state all the time, or a high emotional state all the time. So when we're there, and we want to be there as often as we can, when we're there, we use it to apply behaviors consistently. When we do that, then the habit part starts to take over time, which isn't, by the way, just 22 days or 60 days, whatever you hear. It depends on what it is.
And it depends on the person.
And it depends on the person, right? Yeah. And so sometimes it's years, but when you do that, eventually the habit takes over. Meaning, I formed a new neural pathway in my head, and the other one's getting a little weedy.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes.
So come up with tactics. The simple answer is come up with tactics that put you in a high emotional state. So things like music or dance or art or physical activity or talking to a friend, right? Careful with that talking to a friend though, because if all we're doing is like kibitzing and complaining, you'll find that you're in a high motivational state, but it's not productive.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
I have found myself in that situation. So. Just once in my life. I'm allowed 2 mistakes a year. That was one.
A year?
Yeah.
Oh.
My staff too. 2 mistakes, then they're fired. Because I'm the owner, when I make my 3rd mistake, the first one falls off. So it's a good system for me. Everybody else walks on eggshells.
Excellent. Okay, here's a good one. Are you ever too old to find your passion?
Oh, never. My oldest client was 83 years old.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
There's hope.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Are you kidding me?
Excellent. And do you think someone's passion changes as they change?
Yes. I think that passion changes as they change. I do think that purpose can shift depending on life circumstance. I think purpose goes through phases that tend to last a little longer. It's just we're not always aware that we have a purpose right now. Sometimes the purpose is to discover purpose too.
Oh boy.
You know? And I know it sounds complex, but it really doesn't mean to be. If you really don't know, then that is your purpose, is to discover your purpose.
Right.
Right? And it will involve an element of contributing to something outside of yourself.
Right. Okay. I know that we're running out of time. So, speaking of passion, you've written a book.
I have.
I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about your book.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I wrote a book. It's called It's called Go Beyond Passion: Discover Your Dream Job, and it's a 100-page book that's packed tightly with a whole bunch of information and a lot of work. In it, I talk about dispelling some of the myths that we now understand. I think this is, this is about a job, but there's purpose work that can come out of it. So this one isn't specifically about passion or purpose, but it's about using elements of those to discover the right career fit.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I think it's a relatable book with people who have sort of been around a little while, and they sort of say, you know, like, I've been in the workforce for a little while now, and I'm starting to see like that this is going to be what the rest of my life looks like if I don't change something, whether that's your perception or the environment or you know, any number of things. So
excellent. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
I will I'll take a picture of that book and
Beautiful.
post it as the
I would love that. Yeah, and it's available on Amazon and Indigo. Actually, you can order it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, there's it's available electronically, like on Kindle, as well as hard copy if you're like me and you like to put pen to paper. And yeah, and anybody that reaches out to me actually that wants it, I have an accompanying workbook that goes through it. That's only available through us. But if somebody wants the book from us, I will include the workbook for nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, Christopher, thank you. I appreciate you coming on the podcast again.
Thank you.
And I hope that we can have you again in various areas. So, yeah, thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you very much.